Very good.
Well, I think it's gonna be live streamed because Betsy can't make it, so you guys all need to be at a microphone. It's gonna be live streamed.
Well, I'm fine. How about you? Joseph? How you doing? All right.
Oh, I heard I'll ask about it.
I'll turn my back to him.
In case somebody sits next to you.
Well, they about have to.
I know
But
Betsy's not gonna be here because she sent me an email. She dropped out.
who? Yeah, I saw it. She misses all of them. They just, do you ever get the feeling they just want to be here?
All right, man.
Hey, did you, Ken, when you talked to Sheriff, did you explain to him how county money works? The state only gives us what they allow, and we have to operate on that. It seems like nothing does any good, does it? Well, he just has to know that's the way it's going to be. Huh? Oh, yes, definitely. They can have the whole thing. Oh, that's what it says.
It's tape.
You have a format? What is that for? Well, hey. I've been looking. having it?
That's when I'll be getting off.
Oh. I've been looking for you guys when I went in down there at the Mexican restaurant. I've never seen you anymore. I've got a lot to tell you. Hi. Good to see you. Yeah. Are you ready? This is going to be interesting. Yeah, please. Kenan is here. Back here. Mike, or, what's his name? Nightstand's going to be 15 minutes late. Somebody else is going to be 30 minutes late. And Betsy's not going to be here.
Yeah.
They're very good, but I'm not going to eat any no more. I'll be going high here in a little bit. Or on a high. Is that for the t-shirt? I got him paid. I made a special trip to his house. You'd have 5 more to bring with you, wouldn't you? It is. That's what I see. Got to go ahead and get Butch first. Get Butch first. Sure. It's going to be interesting. Well, if you understand how we have to operate with our money, sure he knows. We only got to get what we can able to try to spend. Rob here to pay Paul. Oh.
We're going to get started in a moment. Kyle Allen said that he was running a little late. Betsy cannot make it. She has an appointment that could not get rearranged. And Mike, workplace would not let him off early, so he'll probably be a half hour late. So, but we do have a quorum. 4 out of 7 is a quorum. Thank you. At any rate, we have the majority of people here, which is always nice. Okay. A reminder, this is a work session. We cannot vote on anything. We can ask questions of the presenters. We have 2. We have Butch from 911. Thank you for being here. And we have Josh. Sheriff going to be here, or are you here? Okay. And they'll both present. We've heard from both of them individually or in small groups or at meetings, but this will be a chance to kind of consolidate and tell us your needs. And then we'll have to decide where there may be money. And a lot of that's up to the state and revenues. So, any questions, council? I think first on the agenda, Butch, I know you've met with some of us one-on-one over the last few months, but I don't know if you've met with all of us. So, floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I have met with most everybody on the county council in the last month and a half or so, and I brought a handout to you. I didn't bring, I think when I met with you, yeah, okay. When I met with you before individually, you got sort of a book, and you got all kinds of documentation. Hopefully you still got that someplace, because I didn't reproduce it. And it was all the supporting documentation that goes along with the situation that 911's in, and the issue or the problem and how to handle it. And so that's what I'm here today at your request. At the work session, the pages, and again, most of you have seen this documentation and has sat down with me. We at the center, we service a large number of emergency services throughout the county, and theoretically, if we're not there to answer the phones, then the police, fire, and EMS don't go nowhere. And then sometimes when we are there to answer the phone, just like one of my dispatchers and a paramedic who just recently received the Hero Award from the Chamber of Commerce because he stayed on the line like he was supposed to. He talked to the individual who was threatening to commit suicide, and according to her mother, she thinks that he probably saved her life. That's sometimes difficult to do when you only have two dispatchers. And you've all had the study that says I need additional dispatchers. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's here here to dispute that. The only pages that I did bring you today, and I'm going to sort of briefly go through them because it's not going to take me 15 minutes. That very first page, when you turn the cover page over, that's the same page I give everybody from the start. And we sat and talked about it. Nothing's really changed from there. The figures are still the same. In 2026, in 2025, it'll be, you'll just have $116,000 carryover, and in 2026, you'll be in the hole. So in 2026, it's unfunded. And so that hasn't changed. Now, there are, the way I see it, you guys may have a different idea, there's three options. You do nothing. I don't know what that's going to get you in 2026, but you just do nothing. The other option is that you increase in the dollar amount that 911 receives from the county, which is the manpower, or the city, which is cash. And from years past and knowing, working for the city, working for the county, and I know that nobody's lying about it, there isn't any more money as it stands right now. And I guess you could take a gamble that in 2026 there'd be a windfall and you guys have a bunch of money you could throw at it. You could do that. Or implement what's called a PSAP tax, a 911 PSAP tax. When I was going through Baker Tilly, I was given permission to contact Baker Tilly to get some figures. Baker Tilly figured up the first time, and he sent me some documentation, he figured it up at 0.11. And that's that page there, yeah. That page there, he figured that up at 1.1, and that's where we started working off of. When I sat down with everybody, because you guys, and I might say you guys, the council didn't have that page then. It was just 1.1. It was a form with 1.1 on it, 0.11. And a couple of the councilmen asked, because they said, how long will this run it out? Well, it runs it out 13 years. So they said, well, what would it take to run it out 20? That's the reason I'm bringing you that additional spreadsheet that shows what it would run out, what it would have to be to go out for 20 years, which is the 1-2. Now, the 1-1 or the 1-2 requires both city and county, city government, city council and county government to vote on it and pass it. The .11, according to Jason, the county is the only one that has to pass it. But that's only going to get you out 13 years. If you're good with 13 years, and that's what you want to do, or if you don't want to do nothing, that's up to you. But that's why I bring that, showing that the 1-1 takes it out 16 years, the 1-2 takes it out 20 years, as I was requested. And I went back to Jason at Baker Tilly and said, hey, can you give me the numbers and run them out to 20 years? So there's what we did and why. I wanted to, since that you guys asked, I wanted to make sure that you did actually see those numbers and you can see the variations of the differences in them. Again, this is a decision that's obviously the council's decision. I know it's not a very popular decision. Some people have tendency to say it's a user's fee. Call it what you want, paint it whatever color you want. I guess it's still tax. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, unless somebody's got a better idea, then in a couple years. The problem with waiting next year to do it, if the end of October this year, if something's not passed on the PSAP tax, then it won't be funded in 2026 because it takes 2020. Pass it now, 2025 starts collecting the money. You can't start spending it as fast as it's coming in, so you're going to end up, you need to let it build up a little bit before you start spending it. So end result is you've got to give it some time before it will then generate and stay ahead of itself so that it will last to 2020. Having said that, again, like I said, you guys have you've all sat through the 30-minute, 45-minute presentation with all the documentation, and you've seen what fat you can cut out of 911, which is very, very minimal. And if you want that cut out, just tell me and I'll cut it out. I don't think it's going to make any difference. You're still going to close in 26.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry. When you calculated the expenses, did that include the staffing that was recommended by the study or
Yes,
your
it did.
current staffing? It did.
It did. In fact, if you'll see on that top line of 2024, it talks about the staffing. It also talks about all the additional funds that the city and the county pays for besides the $225,000 that the city puts in. And it also talks about the city, county, and state splits it's by contract, splits the liability insurance. That gets split 3 ways. You guys actually, I guess the commissioners actually have to pay 1/3 of that every year to go along with the money that the council pays for the 3 employees and their benefits.
So how many additional dispatchers is that over what you currently?
Well, right now I would like to say I have 10 full-time, because last year you guys authorized me to hire another one out of my surplus money, which isn't a whole lot of surplus money, and I did. And we got him hired, got him trained, and which is not uncommon. He took a job making more money, not as a dispatcher, but he's now the director down at Bundy Auditorium. So I'm back down to 9 full-time dispatchers, and then I've got really right now I've got 2 on sick leave, so I'm down to 8 part-time. Part-time dispatchers are great. Problem is they're limited on the hours they can work. I need somebody to work these hours here. Part-time can never do that because they have real jobs. They have their own jobs. And none of them part-time people are willing to leave their full-time jobs to come work for us. Most of them make more money at their full-time jobs. They just use us as a supplement. They're good. They do just the same work as the full-time people once we get them trained, and some of them have been with us for a long time. But
So how many full-time dispatchers are you trying to get to meet the study that you had done?
well, when I had 9, and the report called for 5 additional dispatchers total, full-time dispatchers.
So 14.
14, yeah.
And do these numbers, these expenses include 14 full-time
They do.
dispatchers?
Yes, they do.
So this would be fully staffed. Who did that study?
Yes, in fact, everybody here's got that study, probably but you.
I forget who, yeah, and I don't remember. I've heard you talk about it, but I
I
don't
brought you a copy, complete full copy right here.
Okay.
And you can have it, and then you'll have the staffing study and everything is that.
When we talk about additional taxes, I like to know what we're giving taxpayers for it. So it would be a fully staffed
Fully staffed, yes.
911,
911,
which we don't have right now.
we haven't had, never have had. If you come down in the dispatch center, and, I mean, there's 2 people in there working, there's 2 people over there working right now. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's not. And when it's not, you know, we don't miss too many phone calls, but sometimes the 911 phone might ring 4 or 5 times before it gets answered, and we have to put somebody on hold. And then if the police officer's calling in about something, there could be all kinds of things going on at the same time. You could have a couple grass fires, a house on fire. You could have the medics going 3 or 4 different directions, and then police officers are out there. Again, there's 18 emergency services actually providing services throughout the county to dispatchers, and everything goes through those 2 dispatchers.
Butch, when we met November, December,
Yeah.
when we met for that hour or so, the bottom of your sheet then had us going in the red in 2027. What's the difference between your updated? Is it more employees, more persons being hired? Because I have a 5-year plan that has $60,000 balance as of the end of 2026.
That's probably it. That's the updated. I mean, I guess my approach was is if we're going to fix the problem, fix the problem. I mean, .10 takes it out, and if .10 and did not get the additional people, and you only go out 15 years with that, but you're still working short. It's just a disaster. Looking for a place to happen.
Do most 911 departments operate fully staffed? It sounds like a stupid question, but
Well,
if you go to Hancock County and Madison County and
there's 48 counties. There's 48 counties, and I think it's in your packet. There's 48 counties that, not your packet you got here, but this packet here that belongs to you. There's 47 or 48 counties that have the PSAP tax. They implemented it. Hancock County is one of them. Randolph County is one of them. I mean, all around us, over the past few years, several years, they've implemented. The state has come along and say, we're cutting your 911 money, which they have been. Oh, we're going to give you an option. You can institute your own tax. And that's what they've done.
Really
Just like
good
they
at
do with everything else.
Yeah, they're famous for doing that every year.
I guess the other thing that we haven't touched on that I think is probably somewhat important to note, and that is if you do the .12, which I would recommend, but I'm not you. If you do the 1.2, a person making $50,000 a year, it's going to cost them $4.71 a month, which means it's going to cost them $56.50 a year on their income tax. That's coming out of their pocket to provide a service for 911. You know, if they're making $200,000 a year, it's $18.83 a month, or $226 a month. So it's, you know,
Our median household income went up from about 51,000 when we did the Stellar report to about 60,000 because of inflation and federal monies being pumped in and everything else. So, yeah, we're looking between the 50,000 and the 75 for the median household in Henry County. So it'd be about $60 a year.
probably.
When we did the jail tax, which had been kicked down the road for 10 years plus, we used the same stat, but at that time we were looking at 50,000, and it would have been less than $100 a year for a .2 jail tax. And thank goodness we have a new jail, finally. Questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. On your expense sheet, the second page,
Yep.
the expenses that are on there continuously go up. Your income, my question is the income in each of those columns only money from the PSAP, or are there other funds? Or is your current funding in those income statements?
Current funding's in there. That's a combination of the current 911 fees, which is about $470,000 a year. And then we get that 90-10 split in September, October, November. It's been decreasing over the years, and I anticipate it still to decrease over the next few years. Might not, but I look forward to. And then the rest of it would be the PSAP tax. And then all those figures are calculated with 3% increase per year. Now, that's not a 3% raise for the people. That's a 3% cost. I mean, this year, the Motorola contract, it's way more than 3%. I went from 45,000 to someplace around 88,000. It's double because of the GIS. The GIS program that was put in place 3 years ago in 2019, that the money was there to cover and covered not only the program, the implementation, but it also covered the 3 years worth of maintenance. Now that maintenance is on me, which is on the city, the county, and 911. So that sort of increased it greatly to be split 3 ways.
Well, this year, for 2023, we had mistakenly, I think, removed the Motorola lease, and we budgeted for this year $62,611. Is that sufficient?
No, but that's where I'm.
Or how many do we have?
That's the cost of the radio. It's quarterly reports.
Okay, so how?
And yeah, that's not being paid that way either.
Okay.
You did reduce it. I'm going to have to come back and ask for. And there's not enough money in the surplus 911 money that's sitting up there to cover that cost, all of them. Or I can't pay all. I can't pay all of it from that anyway. 911 cannot pay all the radio fees and the phone fees because it's just not for 911. It benefits the ambulance,
Right.
law enforcement, fire. So they have their requirements. So I have to sort of split that out. That's why we do that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 from the 911 phone fees. So that's one thing. I'll have to balance. That's where I play a juggling act, and I have to transfer money from point A to point B to cover this cost, and then when we get past that point, then I do it again for the next go round. And that gets me by. Last year, I budgeted it all in there, so I didn't have to do a whole lot of juggling last year. This year, when looking at it, I knew I couldn't do that, so we had the discussion when we had our work sessions. And so I'm back to juggling again, and I'm okay with that. It's just more paperwork that I have to give to Debbie, or to you guys for additional appropriations. But the additional appropriations is all coming out of the 911 money, or it's coming out of the cash that the city gives us to run our operation. So that's where the funds come from.
This juggling's a recurring theme, and being short is a recurring theme. We should all go to Hallmark and get a thank you card to send our legislators. Because their only solution is raise your taxes. We've given you avenues to raise your taxes, which we probably are like we were with the jail. We probably won't have a choice.
Right.
Because to survive, it's not only the safety lid, but also yours and about 10 other departments.
Sure.
They're going to be running on fumes. And if our assessor, if Jody's right, and they don't do anything, which apparently the legislature is not apt to this year to fix the homestead tax court situation, we could run $2 million shorter in revenues, in which case no one gets a raise.
Yeah.
We will be looking at probably cutting employees, and this juggling is going to go like it's never gone before. Let's hope and pray that doesn't happen.
The nice thing about the PSAP tax, different from the public safety tax. The public safety tax, well, public safety tax, the way they wrote it at the State House, it could be manipulated. The PSAP tax is for PSAPs only.
It's for 911 only, yes.
It's there. You can't, you, me, nobody else can take it and say, well, we're going to pay this out of that, pay that. Well, you can pay whatever you want to because it's going to come out of the vendors and salaries. That's all I have. I pay vendors, and the vendors are all the maintenance and the upkeep on all the equipment. And as you'll notice on that page, we fix this in there. Every 7 years, we put in there an estimated cost of replacing, because every 7 years, your radios are not going to be warranted anymore. Every 7 years, your phone system's not going to be warranted. We have a battery backup that's not working right now to its fullest capacity. So I put it in there on every 7 years. So just every 7 years, you know, that will be built in there for either the 13 years or 20 years, whatever you guys end up deciding to do at some point in time down the road. It's built into that, yeah. It's built
I
into
still
that.
have questions on the income column. I understand the income includes the 911 dollars coming from the state, this $39,244 every month that it's listed here,
Right.
correct? But the cash match from the city and county government contributions, are those included?
Those are included in there too, yes.
Okay, so there's no dollars coming back to the county or the city by implementing the PSAP? It's just in addition to what you're already getting?
No, there is. By implementing this into there, the county will no longer have to pay for 3 dispatchers.
Wages of the dispatchers, right?
Wages of those 3 dispatchers.
And the cash match to the city,
Well, they will no longer have to pay that.
they would keep that?
You will no longer have to pay 1/3 of any of the bills, such as the Motorola maintenance. The city will not have to pay 1/3 of the bills for the maintenance.
So our current dispatchers, their salaries come back to the general fund in this.
Yeah, your 3 dispatchers that would just stay in your general fund. You can use that money however you want. Dispatch will be completely self-sufficient at that point for 20 years, 13 years, or 16 years, whatever the case may be.
Does that include benefits?
Yeah.
Wages and benefits are paid out of that?
Benefits, any vendor stuff with a 3% increase to cover every year to cover whatever the increase costs are.
And you said that the PSAP can be approved, if it's .11, it can be approved by just county council?
Just county councils.
But if it's .12, it has to have county council and...
If it's .12 or .11, if it's .11, I'm being told that it has to have city council and county council has to approve it. It's called
I think it's
you'd have to tell me,
debt
some
limit,
kind of
isn't it?
tax board or something, I don't know. But,
I think it's our debt limit.
Either way, we would want
I got that
agreement
in-
with the city.
yeah, I got that information from Similar at Baker Tilly. Now, I will tell you this, while I've been communicating and working with all of you, the police chief, fire chief, the medic chief has been communicating with the county council and the mayor, and I've been over a couple times with a couple of them because they had questions that they really couldn't answer because I know the operation and maybe they didn't or something like that, and I was able to help fill in some blanks. And the bottom line is I think pretty much every one of them says, well, what choice do we have? That's the point that they made. So I guess if you're worried about them coming on board, I don't think you have to worry about that too much. I think they're going to, unless they've got a better idea, or unless the mayor's got a whole bunch of money in his pocket that he's not cutting loose with, I think this county's sort of stuck.
Well, we should have the mayor come up next and report on that.
You know what? I'm sure he'd come out and tell you whether or not.
I'm sure he's overflowing with money like most entities are. This is getting to the point, it's like the jail. The number of options are getting extremely limited.
Yeah.
And probably has been delayed too long. And I think most people are reticent about doing this if they're going to run again. It just
Right.
doesn't look good to raise taxes. When it comes down to public safety, I think that's what government is first and foremost, is the health and safety of its citizens. And I think we're getting to a point, this is just my opinion, because we can't vote, we're getting to the point we're not going to have a choice, or this is going to go in the red, and public safety and health is going to suffer.
That was sort of the amazing thing to me, because there was some discussion about holding off doing this until June, after the city election. But then Similar was talking about, well, you don't want to push it too close and not get it through this year, then come 2026, you won't have enough money, you won't go through.
What was your October date? You said it.
It's the
What
last
was-
day of October, like,
What was that alluding
30th.
to? What, is there a deadline or,
yeah, it's a deadline you have to,
okay. So the sooner the better,
Is it the very end of October, or is October 31st, or?
first or,
yeah, October 26th, I think is what I was
but there's a
told.
lot of paperwork that Lisa
Well,
Lee has to do, Baker Tilly, the city, us, well, maybe the city if we go over 1.1.
and there's also public hearings that have to be held.
Right.
So you got to have the
That
public
usually
hearings.
takes 3 months.
Yeah,
With what we've done before, it takes
Yeah.
3 months.
right. So, but the amazing thing to me is the comments that I heard from the city councilman. Nobody liked it. Don't get me wrong. Nobody liked it. But at the same time, it was like, well, we don't have any better option. And, you know, and if there was one out there, so be it. But without having a better option, the other option is you go down to one dispatcher, and then you're going to pay a lot more money in lawsuits than you've ever paid at the jail, probably.
Right. Well, I'll go out to Hallmark and get that thank you letter for the legislators.
Debbie, I'll put you on the spot. Do you know how much general fund money approximately goes towards 911? Because I can't remember. Is it 300?
It's about $150 some thousand dollars. Yeah, in salary. Yeah.
About 150?
Now, if you want, and again, it's in this packet here, if I can find it real quick. If you, there is some additional funds that the county kicks in besides those three. Let me find it here, so you'll have it. It's almost equal, pretty much equal with what the city pays. Here it is right here. In 2022, total operation was $1,100,000. The county, counting their 3 people, and then their 1/3s and 1/3s and all that kind of stuff, come to $187,000. And this will be in this packet that I'll give you that everybody else has already got. And then the city paid in $185,000. So 185, 187, so fairly close was what the two agencies actually contributed in either funding or personnel, which is funding, however you want to look at it. So, and again, I sort of put that in there so as a reference so that nobody can start pointing fingers. We pay more than you. We pay more. No, it's a joint operation. It has been a joint operation for years, and it's worked. It's coming to an end.
Thank you, Butch. Any other questions for Butch about 911? I think we realize that we're getting backed in the corner.
So I know you can't make a decision, you can't vote, say anything about it, but I guess I'm officially asking that I get put on this month's council to make the presentation to get the ball rolling. Because again, you know, if it takes 3 months to get it done, I just soon start now as to be behind the 8 ball. I mean, you guys are going to be here next year and the next year. And
You're leaving, aren't you?
You're going to have to deal with it. I'm leaving.
So who's your replacement?
Do I?
So who's your replacement?
I haven't got one. The 911 board hasn't appointed one, and won't appoint one until after September of this year. So sometime in September, they will start doing the interviews to replace me.
Is that the commissioners or
911 board.
911 board?
There are-
And some of them are here, aren't they? Your 911 board?
Yeah, a lot of my 911 board members are here.
Okay,
Mayor, Joe, the medic from the ambulance, Newcastle ambulance, he's on it. We have Knightstown and Middletown representatives. Oh, let's see, we have the police chief, fire chief, Newcastle. We have a countywide chief association chief, he's on it.
okay.
So it's a pretty good-sized board. and
You
it's
have good
diverse throughout the whole
representation
county.
then. Okay.
So,
Well, we're going to have some big shoes to fill, Butch. He has a question for the mayor.
Greg, do you see any concerns or issues from the city's point of view? Is this something you guys, I mean, Butch has presented to city council, right? And, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts or opinion?
The reality is Harold and I are probably the only two in here old enough to remember when the old phone book was passed out in Newcastle. You'd open the first page and it said Sheriff's Department, Police Department, Fire Station, EMS. So this is not about hiring more employees years down the road. This is about, you gonna have the doors open or not? I mean, is it going to be a service or is it not going to be a service? Very proud of the city and the county's response time from 911. Our numbers are excellent from the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, EMS. And if somebody has to start going through a phone book and calls two wrong numbers before they ever get to the right number, I mean, really, I mean, that's what this is about. Are we going to have the service or are we not? I really need to talk to Joel because I don't like calling it a tax because it's about, that's what I said at our last meeting. We're not taking this tax out and it's going to the state and then the state lets it go somewhere else. This is for this service that is used for this service only. And so, I mean, it's directed and focused for this service, which every time we recruit a new business to come to Newcastle, Henry County, we brag about our special services. And we have public meetings and we brag about our special services. But we never have the opportunity to bring the 911 people in because the skeleton crew is having to work and we never get to recognize them in the public. And I was so pleased that the last chamber meeting that literally a 911 person got a award for saving a young lady's life. And he literally talked her off the ledge. Now, I hate to go public with this, but he probably had 2 or 3 other phone calls that there was only 2 in the room at the time. I'm sure he probably passed up a couple of other calls to stay on the line with this young lady that made a difference in a family's life. So this is about, do we want the service or do we not want the service? This isn't about how many more people we're going to hire. Butch says we need 10. He really doesn't consider it fully staffed, but with the way that they work overtime and the way that they work diligently at what they do, I consider we have a full staff understaffed. But it's not about hiring more. It's about, do we want the service or do we not want the service? To be quite honest with you, I'm a little embarrassed that we lost a very, very good employee to take a job that is administrator of an auditorium. Very nice auditorium, and we're doing a lot of high-tech stuff in that auditorium. But to me, a person that has the opportunity to save lives daily, and I mean, it just, to me, there should be no comparison that he's going there and making more money than he is with us. But this, from the city standpoint, and I've talked to pretty much all the city council, we haven't taken it to vote because that's up to you guys of which path you want to go. But it's not a choice. Our finance committee, it's not a choice. We need to do this and we need to move forward. So.
I don't think you'll get any argument from anybody that's studied the issues. So.
No, I just wanted to ask because it doesn't make any sense for us to move forward if you guys weren't in agreement.
Well,
we're always going to be better off doing things together.
Here's what our council said. If we have to have city approval and county approval, we would like to do it like we did at the Smith Auditorium with the Lowett, and where the city and the council, city council and the county council is both there at the same time. So there's no, well, at that meeting this was said, and
right.
If we do this, we want to be all as one and be together.
Or like White Estates, yeah. These bigger projects that are cooperative, yeah.
Yeah. But that old-fashioned phone book that I don't even know if there is a phone book anymore, Harold. These kids find phone numbers quicker than I can. But literally,
phone books.
it had we're not going to do away with the sheriff's department, police department, the fire trucks. We'll always have those departments. But when somebody has a need, if they've got to call that specific county volunteer fire department, or, you know, if there's a robbery on North 3, are they supposed to call the sheriff's department? Are they supposed to call the city? Well, there's a dividing line. So I really hate that we are not in the situation that we can value our 911 people just as much as we value our emergency services, because they are very valuable, very important. I mean, I remember when the city had our squad room downstairs, that we had our own answering service, and you had to call the city police department or the sheriff's department, and you were in on combining that, right? Yeah. We had the secretary that worked at the fire station that took just fire calls. So, Harold, I'm sure you remember those days.
Yeah.
So we don't want to go back to that.
No, I don't know if I'm as old as you are, though. I don't.
Heck. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Butch. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for that.
Appreciate it.
My golly.
Appreciate it. We will take this under advisement. I will say, Council, that Jason from Baker Tilly has said that he really suggests that we wait to do any major decisions like this until after the legislative session. There's some things that could go either way that'll make a lot of difference in our potential revenues, and we usually get that the 1st of June. So after we have that meeting with them, we're going to, no, it's probably not going to go well, but anyway, Jason suggested we wait to make these major decisions until he gets the full 5-year comprehensive financial report for us after the legislative session. So next we have Sheriff. Sheriff Spruill, you're on, and obviously we've not attended to the 15 minutes. These are important matters.
I'm going to help you all out because I've just got about 2 minutes. I think that we have gone over most of our issues, and you're well aware of them. Just a couple of new ones that are of some concern to me. We got a water bill from GEO, and apparently this is going to be an ongoing thing. We've known that we have to pay for water, soften water, and I think we've actually under budgeted for that by about $10,000. But we got a $13,000 water bill, and they have installed a water meter, and so I guess we're going to start getting billed monthly. This was an estimate. But it concerns me a little bit because it seems like that is about a $50,000 a year possible expense. So we really don't know where that's going. So I've just got some concern on a possible $50,000 a year water bill and about $10,000 of under budget for the softened water.
10 for the year,
I'm sorry?
10,000 for the year.
This bill that we got, again, it was estimated because they don't have a water meter in, but it was for November all the way through January, so it was 3 months, November, December, and January. So it appears to me to be a quarterly estimate.
Okay.
That's why I'm putting that possibility at about 50,000. And we'll advise you when we get the first metered.
Okay. And that's being installed?
I'm sorry?
That is being installed, or has been?
I believe it has been installed and is now active. Another item that I have a little bit of concern about is all of the retirement payouts that we've had here recently. I think we have paid between 75, I didn't get an exact number, between 75 to 85,000 in payouts. So typically what we do with that is we pull it out of the salary money. And I know in the past, sometimes we have left a position open until that amount of money was used up, so to speak. We can't do that with 3 officers out. So at some point, we're going to face this $75-ish thousand. So just one other item that I know you all are aware of that I'm hoping to secure soon is the $25,000 for the cash match for the city. I think that's why the mayor followed me in here. He's wanting that money. No, they've been good about it, but I do want to get that for
And
soon.
which area was that for? Because I remember in the past, you mentioned things about drug-free or drug
It's for the
task
drug
force.
task force, correct.
That's the one you're
Yes,
referring to.
Correct. And you all are aware of that. One other note, I had said at some point that I thought we leveled out at about $180,000 of bills that we had paid for last year, but we have picked up another 15,000 of bills that were due last year. We just paid a bill that we found out that was due in July of last year for our part of malpractice insurance. And so that total now sets at $195,754.59. That is money that we have paid out of 2023 budget to cover bills that were generated in 2022. Another item that we don't have a line item for that is concerning to me is the training training money. It's hard to put a number to this right now, but certainly a department our size with nearly 100 employees when you count reserves and all of the different divisions that we have to train. It seems like a $50,000 a year training budget is very reasonable and in fact may be very slim. So I just want to be paying attention to how we're going to navigate that. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And okay. Yeah, good. And you found a fund that I was really happy with that has enough. I've talked about needing 30,000 for guns, and that fund for ammo. Let's see, it's a revenue from gun permits that has $32,000 in it. So that is a fund apparently that we're able to use that will take care of our $30,000 gun purchase. So that is good because we had that on a separate need list. And a question about that fund, there's a couple funds here that I'm just finding out today that they're not reflected in any of our budget. I'm hoping that you keep finding these funds for us. How many more of these funds can you find? Okay. Is there a reasonable possibility that there may be a few more for, like, how do we sit down and okay. Well, that was it was a $32,000 fine, so that was good. There's another like $1,600 one that I think maybe for ammo or something like that. Are those, so they're not non-reverting funds, they're IC code restricted, is that what you're saying? Okay. Okay, that's fine. So that's pretty much it, other than the items that you all were aware of in several previous meetings. We continue to have good inmate numbers. We're still in the 180s, which is great. And man, if we can keep tweaking that down a little bit, that would be even better. And I want to make clear that we're not just turning people out on the street. The prosecutor's office is working through cases and either getting them sent up to DOC or out to probation or whatever the case may be. But I surely don't want people to think that we're sending people out the door. The process is working, and it's just nice to be in the 180s. So, any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Hey, John.
Yes.
When we stand on the cars now, would you mind to go through that? What we really need.
Yep. So we have talked. We've talked about these items, and I believe that we're planning on May 22nd or something like that to put a presentation to the ARPA funds committee, and so we're working on putting together a very detailed, very thorough. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to look at 10-year projections. I feel like that possibly we have failed somewhat in trying to just Band-Aid year after year, and if we would stop and look at a bigger picture, that we might be able to plan more cost effectively over time. Sometimes that upfront cost can hurt a little bit, but in the long run, you come out a lot better financially. So we're putting together a very detailed preparation for showing these. We're going to do two different types. We're going to look at a 10-year lease program. When I say 10-year lease program, it's like 3 years, turning your cars over 3 years, how that looks over 10 years, and then how it looks for us purchasing as we have done, and we'll see which one wins. But I think maybe, we'll see, but ARPA funds might be a way to kickstart getting on top of the vehicle situation. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's May 23rd, just
May 23rd, okay.
Tuesday, the 23rd.
Yep, good. Yes, we will do that. And when we get to budget time, I believe that we will be able to have a pretty detailed list. We've talked about installing a lot more different line items. And so when we get to budget time, we'll have those type of things put together where we have good projections of training, and then the other line items that we've talked about. And, of course, we had the conversation about the commissary fund, and how that's to be used. As I was glancing through our year-to-date usage as far as our funds, there's none that really freak me out. There are some that we're in good shape on. So, I'm not real concerned about the general. We've just got these odds and ends items, the vehicles, the training, and some that are bigger price tag. And of course, the big one is now the $195,000 from last year. That's the big concern. But we don't have anything else running rampant and really out of control. We've got some items going a little bit over budget that I believe we're going to be able to rein in, such as our jail meal cost. We're working with that, and looking to plan to change meal service providers. And my main reason there is because of the quality of food that we've been getting. I don't want to, I really took a lot of flack when I said something about this in the last meeting. I surely am not intending to throw anybody under the bus or any company under the bus, but we have to treat our inmates right, and I don't want them having to eat food that we would not eat. So quality is the main concern. However, I feel like we're going to be able to have some cost savings as well. So that would be a beautiful trade to get better quality, better money. And I believe we're going to find that we're going to be able to do that really soon. We have a 30-day out clause with the company that we're currently contracted with, which was contracted before I came in. I believe that contract was signed in December. I was not aware of it. I found out after the fact. But I plan to trigger that 30-day out clause this week, and we are making preparation to hire a full-time cook, basically go back to what we have done in the past. And people always talk about our jail having good food, and it used to be that way, and we plan to get it back to that way.
Is there going to be any issue with breaking that contract or getting out of that contract?
So it's a 30-day, and I've got to do a complete review of it, but it appears to be a 30-day out, no.
30-day from when it's signed, or 30-day notice?
A 30-day notice.
Okay.
We've got to give a 30-day, and that's what I plan to give that 30-day notice this week, because we've been trying to get a cook squared away. I didn't want to initiate that 30 days and then have to have you come and cook, you know. So.
Yeah, they wouldn't want that. I could bring my wife, that would be good. So is the kitchen, which is a wonderful kitchen, is that being used at all, or are they bringing it in from outside? How's that working with the current contract?
No, it's being used. It's being used. It's not, they don't cook every meal, 3 meals a day. They're not using every piece of equipment in the kitchen. I will say this, that when we hire our own cook, the kitchen will be getting used more. And so, yeah.
John?
Yes, yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
What do you think would be, would you believe it would be cheaper or about the same cost if we hire your own cook for the food and the cook?
Yes, I believe the calculations that we're running right now, it's going to be cheaper. I believe it's, and it may be, let me say this. You all have left a full-time cook position in the salary, okay? So what I was concerned about, what I'm sure we would have had to end up doing, because we're running over budget as it is, probably using that to pay, had we continued through the year under our current contract, we were headed for over budget. I think we were headed for about $416,000, and I think we're budgeted at $398, if I remember right. But yes, I do believe we're going to be able to come out better financially. Yeah.
So possibly the salary was being used to pay for meals?
It hadn't been yet, because we're still using.
But maybe in the past? We don't know.
Well, so they just switched. Apparently, this new company we provided our own. We had our cook up through near the end of last year at some point. I couldn't give you the exact date, but there was a change near the end of the year that brought in the new food service company.
Good.
To offset. Mm-hmm. Okay. And which would have done it, as we stay on track. And I'll tell you this, we were on track for the 416,000. However, our inmate numbers have tailed down a little bit. So, that could have balanced out. We're probably pretty close if we can keep because it's per meal, per inmate is how it's priced.
And how's medical looking? That's always when we watch.
Yes, well, the medical is one of those concerns.
You've spent 60% of the budget already in 3 months.
83.95, I believe.
That's from March 20.
But we have medical in 2 places.
Yeah, medical and hospital under the jail budget. So let me tell you what I understand about this. Apparently, the new medical contract was signed, and apparently our department was not aware. And again, this was signed previous to January 1. Was apparently unaware that they did not provide the medications anymore in the new contract. And so that was a change that the medical provider had pulled out all medications, which it looks like it's going to cost us about $80,000 or $90,000. So that contract, apparently, the way I understand it, was signed not knowing that, okay, now you're going to pay your medications separately. So that in itself kind of put us on track to be about $80,000 or $90,000 upside down.
Are you holding any bills right now because you don't know where to pay them from other than the cash match?
I don't believe we are holding any. You're right. Hey, Ian, we're not holding any bills.
He spent 23% of
We're not holding any.
safety lit medical.
We are keeping bills paid up when they hit the desk. Now that's easy to do when you're on the first of a year. When this is my concern. That we're managing all of these things now, but we're overusing our. I don't want to get. My concern is getting in the place where we're holding bills because we don't have anywhere to pay them from. That's what I want to stay ahead of, and I think we're going to be able to do that as long as we're all aware, and I'll keep you aware of where we're at and where we're headed.
One of the things I scratched my head, and I've not gotten my head wrapped around it yet, is in previous years, how much shortage was there or encumbered or carried over from one budget year to the next versus this past year? And I don't know if I have know how that happened.
Do you know that, Debbie? Like, on average, would it be normal for them to have rolled over bills?
They never have money left at the end of the year.
But as far as getting bills following year from the previous year, getting bills from the previous year.
Everybody has bills carried over every year.
Yeah.
December 9th is our last day to turn bills in to be paid for 2022, was December the 9th. So the only thing we paid up until the end of the year was utilities. Everybody has some. How much the carryover is, I can't say.
Do you have a recommendation for John for where this cash match for the city could be paid from, or do we need to do the additional?
Well, instead of doing additional, we need to maybe transfer the money into a line item and not do an additional until the budget's gone at the end of the year. But no, I would have to go look. I haven't looked.
That's fine with me, and I get what you're saying on transfer. I'm okay to do that. I just don't want to get hung out at the end of the year like, oh, sorry.
Well, just as long as by October we start the additional program, start the process. We'll run it through Farm and Red. But by October, if we start the process that we know we're going to be short, then we can do the additional for the end of the year.
Yeah. If you all could look at. I mean, I guess is that our call on what to pull it out of? It doesn't really matter to us. Yeah.
I'll have to look tomorrow. I mean, I really don't know if there's a special place on that handgun permit.
Yes.
In March and November, last year there was $20,760.
March.
From the state. And we didn't get one in March of this year, but that doesn't mean anything. So, and I'm not sure if that's one of those funds that they thought maybe would fluctuate every year. But I know that in March and November last year we got it, but we have not gotten a payment yet this year.
So, but the nice thing is there's a possibility, it sounds like.
It was $20,760 that we got last year.
Wow. Okay, so 40,000-ish, and we might be on track to get that. That would be wonderful. 32,000, and we plan to pay for our new guns. We're right at 30,000. I projected 30. I think we're landing at 29 or something like that. So that is what we'll plan to use. So if
Is that trading in the old guns?
I'm sorry.
Is that trading in the old guns?
It is.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So. Well, another item that obviously goes along with the guns is ammo, and so that fund seems like the perfect fund to pay for guns and ammo out of. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's great, and thanks for finding that. And if you can find any more.
Sure. I've got a question about, you mentioned, the jail numbers are down in the 180s. prior to the new jail, we were sending prisoners out of the county and paying big dollars to have them housed. Is there opportunity for us to house out-of-county prisoners here and get a revenue stream?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. I had some extensive conversation with several sheriffs the other day. We were in Indianapolis together, and I really want to look at the possibility of housing some federal inmates. That's almost $90 a day, and I talked to several sheriffs who were doing it, who said it is phenomenal, the income. And so, yeah, we are getting into a place to where, you know, if we can keep our numbers where they're at, if we could bring in 20, you calculate that at you know, at $90 a day, 2,700, call it $3,000 a month per inmate. You know, you get 20 of them, you're looking at $60,000 of income. Obviously, you're going to have to boost your, you know, to boost your staffing a little bit, but nowhere near in that kind of cost. So I am working on that, and it is something that I will bring to the appropriate committee when I get some information on those. We have got to utilize all of the ability to bring in income that we can. There, like you said, there's no need to have 40, 50, 60 beds up there that are empty. Let's make some money.
Perfect, thank you.
When we did a tour of Adams County Jail, in fact, our jail is patterned after the floor plan for the Adams County, Decatur, Indiana. That sheriff was saying that they have a space for the federal prisoners, and he said this was one of the best things they ever decided to do.
I've been working diligently on that, and I intend to work diligently until we can come to a decision of where we know. You're coming after that money, aren't you? I knew it. I'll turn my gun side away from you.
Yeah, I wouldn't turn your back to that fella.
You need the mic, you step right up.
I promise we've never talked about this, but the city's on a 5 to 7 year car a year renewal, and we found out after we got done putting 3 guys in a car a day, our maintenance bill was just outrageous. We got out of that vehicle, whatever, nil scrap metal, $250 that the scrapyard would give us. And we found out that in a rotation that we get a free car just out of the maintenance money, more than 1 car every year.
Yeah, we do.
And now we're selling our vehicles.
Keep going, you're doing good.
And now we're selling our vehicles for $5,000, $6,000. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to get started, but truly, I mean, the rotation.
And that's a 7-year rotation? That's
No, we try to get 5 to 7 new vehicles a year.
Okay.
Now, we still have some of our rookies that aren't in a brand new vehicle yet, but we haven't went through one whole cycle yet. But the point is what we're saving in the maintenance bills, the maintenance fees on the vehicles, the maintenance is it's just outrageous.
Did you say 1 car a year or 2 out of the maintenance?
No, we try to save 3.
Yeah. So
I think that's what we've been doing.
I'm gonna have to get you a check. A personal.
Yeah, you owe the mayor dinner, John.
I promise we hadn't discussed this.
We haven't. No, we haven't.
But
You
there
need to
is
have
a
lunch
savings.
together and have a chat.
There truly is a savings there.
Oh,
No, I completely agree.
He's gonna be calling me after this
good
because he's
point.
needing something, I think. Well, thank you, Mayor.
going in least.
No, that is, he's right on. And while we're talking about that, the maintenance, we had projected 100 and, this is important, 101,000 or 108,000. And we're already 30-some% into it, so we're already running over and the new budget is 100. Right, but the new budget, what's the 2023 is more.
Who does the maintenance?
Oh, you are correct.
It's
We spent
84,000.
100, and I should have known that Ann.
We would have bet on Ann, just saying.
Here it is,
We
okay.
have history with her.
She is right. So what I meant to say is our actual expense last year was 108,000.
Right.
Vehicle maintenance, actual expense, this is important. We've only budgeted 84. County Highway used to do all of our maintenance for $20 an hour. And that is no more, and to find somebody to do maintenance for $80 an hour is about as good as you can do. So I have great concern that 108 from last year, it could turn, running an old fleet like we're running, that could turn into 175, 200. Like he said, running newer cars, that you could get 1 or 2 cars out of this a year. So great point. Any other questions for me?
No, I think you're going to have to talk to the mayor and to Debbie and find out what all these funds that you can tap, because again, I go back to what I comment. I mean, health and safety is our #1 priority, and both of the presentations deal a lot with safety and somewhat health.
Especially the vehicles, and I know I've told this story, but I'm going to tell it again. The liability in this position, my biggest concern is liability. We talk about special deputy stuff. That's a liability item that I've been working on. But I'll go back to something they told us in New Sheriff School about a county that just didn't want to spend the money maintenance in a vehicle. Something happened to the vehicle. It flipped and killed the chief deputy's wife, and I think they paid out $5 to $6 million on it. And if I remember, they had a number. It was a $250 or $300 part they kept waiting on. And so we just don't want to run that type of, forget the money side of it, which is significant, but the safety side of that.
You mentioned earlier that you have a portion of, you pay a portion of is it the county's malpractice insurance?
Yes, and I can tell you, I'm not up to speed on exactly how all that works. Debbie would know, but apparently we all pay a certain portion of it. Yeah.
Is that in the commissioner's budget? Okay, she did have the answer.
She did?
Okay. And you don't have enough budgeted for your third, or? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so all I know about that is it wasn't paid. I don't know where, we don't have a budget that says, or a line item that says medical malpractice. I assume you take it out of the medical, which we're already.
It's probably out of insurance.
Okay. Well, apparently they didn't have it in the budget last year or had already used it or something, because it
It has always been budgeted every year. The sheriff's liability is always been, because that's always a given. Yeah, it's always a given, so you guys have to pay it.
Any questions for Sheriff? Very thorough 2 minutes. Thank you.
I'm sorry. You guys, I'm going to blame it.
I had to throw
I'm gonna
that in
take
somewhere.
80% of the blame
No,
on the time.
no. So these,
85%. All right, thank you.
thank you. These are important topics, and we'll know more after the legislative session, after Baker Tilly, and after we probably have a sit down with Debbie again. Where were we going to pay the $5,000 incentive for hiring?
I think we should just pay from salary for now.
Okay.
Debbie? Kenan just said, where were we going to pay the $5,000 bonuses from?
Only it came from the salary line.
Okay, that's what you said. Okay. Which will be short. A lot of things will be short.
It shouldn't be, because there should still be money, because they've gone out, and then with those going out and those coming in, it really shouldn't be that short.
Even if they hire 6 more.
Well, if they hire 6, well, I don't even know that that's in the budget.
Right, I mean, if they just use open budgeted positions, I think it should be okay.
$2,500 a year. It's not $5,000 a year, it's $2,500 a year. Yeah, they get $2,500 the first year, and then
Right.
$2,500 the second year.
Yeah, okay,
We don't get the whole $5,000.
okay.
I have a question. Are we still going to do our budget in August, or do you think we should do it earlier?
Hopefully July. Sooner we get it done, the better.
I agree. I just want to ask.
I think as soon as we get information from Baker Tilly.
Which historically has been about mid-June at the latest. There's just more pending at the State House. My last conversation with Jason was they're not going to get into it hardly at all until the long session's over, which is going to be end of April. So they're going to do a lot of this work in May. So we're going to hope by mid-June, and if that gives us a month
Oh, yeah.
before
That'd be
budget
good.
hearings. I'm on vacation until July 20th, but anytime after that, I'm sure you guys don't take vacations, so. That was tongue in cheek.
I was thinking we should have the commissioners too, if we look at these work sessions, because they have a big piece of the budget also. It's good to just
Yeah,
hear
they-
the sheriff regularly talk about what
Right.
they need, and we should have the same
Probably
with the
the,
commissioners. Okay.
I'm not surprised. We have a lot of funds that are down.
So we need to,
Well, the commissioners have the largest budget, highway, sheriff, including jail. Those are all very large budgets. That's true. And there's things pending at the State House regarding the highway, but not a lot. The number one thing is going to be that homestead. There's a lot hinging on what occurs there, so. Kyle left. That's the sense I get also, is that it's a priority with AIC, a very high priority, but it doesn't seem to be with the legislators. And that's the 2 million that, worst case scenario, Jody said we could be 2 million shorter shy on our revenues, given that homestead. And Ryan Huff gave a dissertation on that when we met up at the State House, and he's not very hopeful, but that they're going to correct it, and it's going to be 92 counties adversely affected greatly. Maybe not Hamilton, but they're rarely affected by the revenue streams. But most of us out in the rural areas that are not growing will be greatly impacted by that court decision.
I mean,
Well, next to the tax caps, this would be the biggest
people would
kick.
essentially get. Clear what's happening. If that happens, taxpayers are better off, and county government needs tax revenue to run, so.
Well, and this, I don't know what council did this years ago, but, they adopted that tax relief of 0.25%. And that takes 1.8 million out of our property tax revenues.
Sorry, I needed a little
You're quite all right.
No, you go ahead, I'm listening.
No, I was just saying 1.8 million. So,
It's depressing to think about that tax problem, so I needed some chocolate.
well, the
I just want
legislators-
to, in regards to that, when you think about it, and I've talked to state legislators, and you're right, they're not bashful about, we gave you methods to fix this. You just got to do it. They're putting the onus on local government to deal with it. But they also are quick to point out that everybody is paying property taxes, whether they're working or not. The fixed income folks, even if you move it to income tax, the fixed income folks probably are not paying income taxes on their fixed income. So they look at it as a win for the residents. Lower property taxes, and the fixed income folks are not going to be impacted. The folks that are working will have to pay more, and that's by design from our state legislators. I don't know that we have much choice but to fund government.
Working people and shifting.
Exactly.
away from property owners. And
the other thing that they're doing, I hadn't heard about it, but they're taking the cap away from school systems as to how much money they get. So the school's gonna get more, we're just gonna take away from local government as well.
okay, and so again, they're shifting tax money around when local government continues to lose funding. So
We've lost considerable funding since the tax caps of 2008.
we need to make sure our critical services are operational.
Well, when we passed the jail tax, I said to myself and my wife, I said, well, this is the last tax I'll ever approve or increase while I'm in office. But I really think what I said a while ago is we're in the same, very similar position for where we were on the jail. That they could have taken the youth center, which it closed, and for an estimated 5.5 to 6 million is what I was told at the time. They could have revamped that and at least had a stopgap measure to the jail for 5.6 million. And I'm not pointing fingers. I wasn't here. I don't know what the cause was, but 12 years later, that 5.6 million retrofit turned into a $25 million new jail. And most of that was because the can was kicked down the road. Are we going to be in the same position if we don't do something to fix 911? I've shared with you some of my thoughts relating to not only is it not PSAP, but the whole safety net needs to be looked at because the needs are in more than just 911. It's in several areas.
And not kick the can down the road, because we're just creating a problem for others if we do. If the state is going to limit the funding, and it's our responsibility to devise ways to fund local government, then we have no choice. There's certain, I mean, if somebody's got suggestions on what we should stop doing, cut out, not pay for, we'd love to hear it.
I think we need to start there.
Exactly.
If I sit and think of, what we can absolutely not fund, maybe it's not legally required. I can only think of a handful of things. They don't cost very much, like the Historical Society or, like these small.
I like the
I'm
Historical
not saying I
Society.
don't. I'm just saying, is it legally required by the state that we fund it?
No,
I mean,
we-
there is only a few things that we are not.
I
legally
was going to
required
recommend increasing the Historical Society
Well, you
because they've held
It
it
was
steady for 10 years. I know, as an example.
It's a hypothetical idea. I can only think of a few things
It's
that were not
it's
obligated
been
by
a
the state to
it's
do.
been an hour and a half. I'm getting a little punchy. I apologize.
And this, I want to,
pay as much to Meridian, if we can, and that didn't sound right, because I don't want them.
Oh, it's been said at the state level.
I'm talking about Meridian Services, is what I'm talking about, what we pay to them,
Well-
that we pay them like $280,000.
and we
and we're-
don't all think we get benefit from that, but we are required still
And
by
it's
the
state
state to do
assigned.
it.
We don't have a choice. The only thing they're talking about, it is, we're required. There's 3 counties. Meridian is what the state assigns which mental health provider, which counties. There's 3 counties, I don't know, Delaware, Randolph, Henry. It's Delaware and Henry. And the legislation is board member only where the headquarters is, which I'm pretty sure is in Delaware County. So they get a seat at the board. A council member or somebody assigned, elected official we get nothing. And we're dictated that we pay $280,000. And you can talk to the sheriffs, you can talk to the courts, and they'll tell you what they think of the bang for the buck we get.
Well, that's just one example of legislation at the State House that could impact us. We're hoping that one could impact us in a positive way. Everything else looks to impact us in a negative way. And if everything stayed status quo the way it is, we're still fighting an uphill battle. So we have choices that we have to make very soon to be able to make things successful in the very near future and looking out further beyond
I
that.
think in the next 3 months, we've got some critical decisions on prioritizing to do. And that's about it. By June, we need to have some critical decisions made, even heading into the budget hearings in, let's say, the last part of July. And when I spoke with Jason, he said, Kenan, the council has done an outstanding job going from 0% cash balance in 2019 when you and I took office and Harold was on to 20%. And I said, can we delve into that any? And he said, I would tell you 20% is the floor of what you should have, and it's what we recommend to all counties, and they represent most counties as far as financial advisor. A 20% balance is what you need to have as a minimum, and it's taken us 4 years to get from 0 to 20.
And
That was not easy.
a lot of that was COVID money.
Well, and the fact that you don't know what the next year is. So, if these are running into that now.
Holding federal inmates, that can bring in a lot of money.
I think several departments raised fees because we were so critical. The council, not that many years ago, because I sat in on 2018, we're telling people we don't have money, and they said, you're going to have to raise your fees. You know, so planning commission, surveyor, et cetera, clerk, et cetera, they raised their fee. And yet we're actually low compared with a lot of counties on their fees.
So I don't know.
We can,
There's some
20%, I
ways
think
that
we tap
there's
most of
some-
it. Was that at the last work session that you said something, Debbie, that I missed here, that we were really down, when the peak number of county employees is down considerably from its peak? And I don't know what number you said. And we have 300? That would be something nice to put in the paper, wouldn't it? There were operating 100 fewer employees at that peak. Because people say, cut the budget by letting, getting rid of people or through attrition, not replacing people who retire. That's been done and done and done and done and done. And we cut fat. I have a feeling some departments, the heads would say, you are cutting muscle. If you go any deeper, you are not cutting. Fat's been cut over the last 10 years. And I think they're being honest. I don't think this is a case trying to save their department.
I think we're seeing the results of that cutting, and especially as it's related to wages that are paid throughout all county employees. How many have we heard from that county employees are leaving to go work elsewhere because they're being offered positions that pay much better? Is that a result of cutting fat or cutting muscle? I don't know. But either way, we don't have the revenue to compensate qualified, good individuals to do the jobs we need them to do to keep them here and keep them happy. That's going to be a problem moving forward. So we've got to fund safety, we've got to fund 911, but we've got a whole group of other departments with quality, talented people that we need to keep employed to do the good work here in the county. So we need to look at how we're going to make that happen as well. We can't do it all immediately tomorrow, but we can at least put together a plan to get us towards that. And a lot of it does depend on what the state does, without question. But we need to have some serious discussions about how we're going to make that happen.
And the PSAP put roughly $1 million back into the general, correct?
Oh.
It's 300, about 100,000.
About 100 of it?
Yeah, 185, I think, is what he said we spent last year.
That's right, I couldn't remember, it's when I was coming in.
Yeah, that's his total budget, and 800 of that, I think, comes from the state already for 911, and that is still going to go to him for 911.
But it that's right, it frees up the salaries.
Yeah, it frees up the salaries and that we pay, and it frees up the 200,000 from the city as well.
We have chipped away substantially compared with previous years, in the last 2 years with salaries. We tried to do it adjusted to Wagner Irwin Shealy, which is complex, and I'm not sure I'd ever recommend doing that for a third year. But the sheriff came in articulating how they're the lowest paid in East Central Indiana as far as deputies and his correctional officers, which is true. And my comment back then was, it's going to take 3 years to even get close to make a significant dent. And they have gotten double the raise of the average other employees.
We still need this year, as I
Yeah,
remember.
this would be year 3. And
We're hoping this, the
if,
third year, we
depending on the legislature, what kind of revenues we have, I think that would be the emphasis is on public safety. But we've not been given, last year was a 9% inflation rate.
Yeah.
We gave a 3%, and that's all we could do to balance the budget, to keep that 20% that they're saying is a minimum.
Thanks to Biden.
Can I say that out loud? I know it's
Use
not
your
what the
microphone
problem
next
we're
time.
solving right now. What'd you say?
Yeah. Well, they're switching over to summer blend. Go back to horses, so we need to all get friends with garishes and have horse and buggies. But even the feed for the horses has probably gone up 25% too, I would guess. They do it in Amish country. There's 3 counties, you'll see, even Rush County, Wayne County, you see horse and buggies all over the place. Yeah. So, before you leave, next work session, would the second work? Is it the second?
I'd propose the 3rd if it
Third.
works for everybody.
Tuesday the 3rd, would that work?
No, Wednesday the 3rd.
Wednesday the 3rd.
Wednesday the
May.
3rd is
May the 3rd.
May
Yeah,
the 3rd.
Wednesday, May 3rd, 4:30, so Mike can be here. 4:30 on Wednesday, May 3rd. 'Cause the next week you're out.
Yeah, the next week I'm out,
That gonna
and
work for you, Susan?
the 2nd is rough for me.
Okay,
So 4:30 to 6 on Wednesday, May the 3rd.
yep. Next work session. They're always invited. They,
To present. Yeah, invite them to present.
okay, and I would almost suggest the health department too, from what I've talked to her. Is that okay? We invite the commissioners to present and the health department to present at our May 3rd?
Commissioners present their budget on May 3rd.
I can answer for them. It'll be called draft, and in parentheses, very tentative, subject to change, multiple times.
Looking for areas of concern that we should be aware of.
Yeah, insurance, liability. No, legal. Legal. We contributed somewhat to that.
And we're well over $1 million in
Yeah,
Of course, I could change, and
but that's a good, you mean our balance. You mean our balance.
everybody, positive thinking. We're going to end up with $1 million. Everybody's going to be healthy. No catastrophic like happened in 2018.
I think that was a lot, it was catastrophic, but we're managing it.
Well, I'm glad we don't deal with that now.
I I know that John had mentioned there'd be some outlay of cash on the front end to switch to the lease program. Did he? To look at what that difference, does he know the difference in that?
I think they're researching
They're
this.
still in the research? Okay.
I don't know if the ARPA numbers. The difference between purchasing and leasing moves your dollars from capital expenses to O&M expenses, different line. And I don't know if that works the same.
You can't lease
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, so I think if he goes in with ARPA dollars looking to buy vehicles, looking for vehicles, it's gonna have to be a cash purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't lease out of that deal.
I'm just thinking of, it's just always a shift from here to there. If there's a PSAP tax and that's 120,000, what's that go towards? How does that help with the sheriff?
It doesn't much.
No,
The 120,
if it's 120 grand, that helps pay for leases.
that paid for one of the 7 items he mentioned.
That's what I'm just saying, yeah, just how do you bounce it around? Where does it go to? And I know it'll go somewhere, obviously, but if it's the things like health and safety, right? From today's,
Yep.
yeah. Mhm. And everybody has their own opinion, but if I'm gonna pay for anything, it may as well be the stuff that's a necessity. I don't, go ahead. Mhm. Yeah, I don't know what those actual, see, what I like about this is there's some hard and fast data to actually work with. But with everything that goes through the state house,
I see you guys.
and that's what I mean, it's so hard to actually put a finger on the exact amount, yeah.
Meeting adjourned. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Aye.
No, thank you.
Chocolate covered cherry? Come on, man. Best chocolate covered pretzel you'll ever eat.
I'm sure it is. I'm a. Yeah. Oh, my coronary CAT scan came out well. I got a note on it to call today. But said nope, nothing to see here. I was like, well, that's good news. Yeah. I'm ready to go home and go to bed. Bye, Susan.
See you.
Little cold, it's refrigerator.
This being spring break